Look, I have been stationed at the Galactic orbital platform for 7 cycles now, right? And in those 7 cycles, I have seen some absolutely ridiculous things. I have seen cargo freighters attempt docking maneuvers that would make a seasoned pilot weep. I have seen diplomatic vessels forget which side their airlocks were on. I have even, and I am not proud to admit this, seen a Valnari captain try to navigate an asteroid field while clearly intoxicated on fermented kelp juice. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the day I met Lieutenant Jack Reeves. My name is Krell. Just Krell. No fancy titles, no complicated clan designations. I am a traffic controller for the Galactic Transit Authority, which is exactly as boring as it sounds, except when it is not. My species, the Thexorians, we are known for 3 things: our exceptional eyesight, our calm demeanor under pressure, and our complete and utter inability to understand human behavior. That third one? Yeah, that is going to be important. It started on what I thought would be a routine morning shift. The twin suns of the Kelvar system were just cresting over the horizon of the nearby gas giant, painting everything in shades of orange and purple. Beautiful. Sure, but I had seen it 6,000 times before. I was halfway through my morning stimulant beverage, a thick blue liquid that tasted vaguely like regret and smelled worse, when the proximity alarms started shrieking. Now, proximity alarms on an orbital platform go off maybe once every few weeks. Usually it is just some piece of space debris that the automated systems handle, so I was not exactly jumping out of my seat with concern. Krell? That was my supervisor, a 4-armed Blenthic named Gorvine. We have got an incoming vessel on approach vector 7. No scheduled arrival, no clearance code, and it is coming in fast. I set down my beverage, which immediately tried to crawl off my desk because I forgot to seal the magnetic base again. How fast are we talking? Fast enough that I am getting concerned. I pulled up the sensor data on my primary display and my triple eyelids blinked in rapid succession, which for Thaxorians is basically the equivalent of saying several very creative curse words. The vessel was absolutely screaming toward us, moving at speeds that were frankly illegal in most civilized systems. Hail them, he said, trying to keep my voice level. Standard protocols. Gorvan's tentacles danced across his console. Hailing now. No response. Wait, I am picking up some kind of transmission. Audio only. It is very garbled. Put it through. What came through the speakers was a mess of static, warning klaxons, and underneath it all, a voice. A human voice, which I recognized from the accent databases we were required to study. American English variant, if I was not mistaken. This is Lieutenant Jack Reeves of the Earth Defense Coalition vessel, Nighthawk. I am declaring an emergency. Repeat. Declaring an emergency. Things are, and I cannot stress this enough, completely not good right now. The way he said it, so casual, so matter-of-fact, like he was commenting on the weather rather than hurtling through space in what our sensors were now telling us was a heavily damaged fighter craft. Typical human. I pressed the transmit button. Lieutenant Reeves, this is Galactic Platform Traffic Control. We copy your emergency declaration. Please reduce your speed and transmit your status. More static. Then, yeah, about that speed thing. See, I would love to slow down. Truly, I would. But I am having a bit of a situation with my starboard engine, by which I mean it is no longer attached to my ship. Also, about 40% of my starboard wing decided it wanted to pursue other opportunities, and left the company, if you catch my meaning. I did not catch his meaning. I never caught human meanings. They spoke in these bizarre metaphors that made absolutely no sense. Lieutenant, please clarify. Are you saying you have lost structural integrity? Oh, I have lost way more than that, buddy. I have lost my co-pilot, who ejected about 10 minutes ago and is hopefully having a lovely time in his escape pod. I have lost my weapons systems. I have lost my navigation computer, and as previously mentioned, I have lost a pretty significant chunk of my actual spaceship. Gorvan looked at me with all 4 of his eyes wide. Is he joking? Are humans capable of joking during life-threatening situations? I honestly have no idea, I admitted. The human continued, and I could hear what sounded like alarms blaring in his background. Now I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, Jackson, how are you still flying? And that is a fantastic question. The answer is spite. Most also. I am manually controlling the thruster balance, which is about as fun as it sounds, meaning not at all. I pulled up the visual feed, and my scales went pale. The human fighter looked like it had gone through a shredder. The entire starboard side was torn apart, metal twisted and burnt. Atmosphere was venting from at least 3 different hull breaches. The wing, what remained of it, was barely hanging on. How is he even alive? Gorvan whispered. Lieutenant Reeves, I said, trying to project authority I did not feel. You need to shut down all non-essential systems and prepare for emergency landing procedures. We are clearing Bay 12 for you. Do you have attitude control? Define control, came the response. And I swear I heard him laugh. Actually laugh. I can point the nose mostly where I want it to go. The rest of the ship kind of does its own thing. It is like flying a particularly angry and uncooperative brick. Can you make the landing approach? There was a pause. Longer than I liked. I am going to be honest with you, traffic control. I have no idea, but I am sure going to try, because the alternative is becoming a permanent orbital decoration, and I have got plans this weekend. This was insane. This was beyond insane. I brought up the emergency protocols on my secondary screen and started coordinating with the medical bay, the firefighting teams, the structural integrity specialists, everyone who would need to be on standby for when this inevitably went horribly wrong. Lieutenant, I am going to need you to listen very carefully to my instructions. I am all ears. Well, I have got 2 ears. You might have more, I do not know your species. No offense. None taken, I supposed. Reduce your velocity by firing your ventral thrusters in 3-second bursts. I am transmitting the optimal sequence now. Small problem. My ventral thrusters are part of the section that is currently not here anymore. I have got portside thrusters, some of the dorsal array, and a whole lot of hope. By the stars, this human was going to kill himself. And I was going to have to watch it happen. Okay, I said, forcing myself to think. Okay. Use what you have. I will calculate a new approach vector. I worked faster than I ever had in my life, my claws flying across the haptic interface. The numbers were bad. Really bad. Even if he did everything perfectly, and I mean absolutely perfectly, his chances of survival were maybe 30%. Probably less. I am sending you the new vector now, I said. You will need to execute a rolling descent while maintaining thrust compensation for your missing wing surface. It is going to be extremely difficult. Extremely difficult is kind of my specialty, the human said, and there was something in his voice, not fear, exactly. More like excitement. I once landed a training jet with one engine on fire and my landing gear stuck. This is basically the same thing but in space and way worse. That is not reassuring, Lieutenant. Yeah, I get that a lot. I watched on the sensors as his ship started its approach. Gorvan had gathered half the control room staff around my station, all of them staring at the displays in horrified fascination. Ships simply did not fly in the condition his was in. It violated about 17 different laws of physics and at least 40 safety regulations. Beginning descent, the human reported. Throttle at 60%, compensating for drag on the port side. This is going to get bumpy. The Nighthawk entered the platform's gravitational influence, and immediately things started going wrong. The ship began to spin slowly at first, then faster. The remaining wing was creating uneven lift, pulling the vessel into a death spiral. Counter-rotation, I shouted into the comm. Fire your port thrusters now. Already on it. The ship shuddered, jerked, and somehow, impossibly, began to level out. But it was coming in too fast. Way too fast. At this speed, even if he made the landing bay, the impact would tear the ship apart. You need to lose more speed, Lieutenant. I am trying. I am dumping fuel. I am extending every drag surface I have got left. I am even considering just opening the canopy and sticking my hand out to see if that helps. Do not do that. I was joking. Mostly. The ship was 3,000 meters out now. 2,000. I could see it with my own eyes through the observation port. A burning streak against the black of space. Landing bay doors are open, Gorvan announced. All personnel have been evacuated. Firefighting systems are primed. 1,500 meters. Lieutenant, at your current speed and trajectory, you are going to overshoot the bay. Yeah, I can see that. Hang on, I have got an idea. Those are the words you never want to hear from a human in a crisis situation. I have learned this from experience. 1,000 meters. The Nighthawk suddenly pitched upward, angling its nose toward the ceiling of the landing bay. The remaining thrusters fired at full power but pointed the wrong way, backward, fighting against the ship's momentum. What are you doing? I yelled. Something really stupid. But if it works, it will be amazing, and if it does not work, well, I will be too dead to care. 500 meters. The ship was nearly vertical now, thrusters screaming, the whole frame shaking so hard I could see it on the video feed. Pieces of debris were flying off, including what looked like the rest of that starboard wing. 200 meters. He is going to make it, Gorvan whispered. By all the forgotten gods, he is actually going to make it. 100 meters. And then, because the universe apparently has a sense of humor, the port thruster exploded. The Nighthawk spun like a top, completely out of control, all pretense of flight abandoned. It slammed into the landing bay at an angle, skipped like a stone on water, hit a support pillar, careened off a fuel depot that thankfully was empty, and finally came to a stop upside down in the far corner of the bay. For a moment there was absolute silence in the control room. Every single person, representing 6 different species, just stared at the wreckage. Then the cockpit canopy blew off with an explosive charge, and a figure in a pressure suit crawled out, gave a thumbs-up gesture toward the nearest camera, and promptly collapsed. "Medical team to Bay 12 immediately," I screamed into the comm system. The next few hours were chaos. The medical team extracted Lieutenant Reeves from the wreckage and rushed him to the infirmary. The firefighting teams put out 6 different fires. The structural integrity specialist declared that we would need to completely rebuild the eastern section of Bay 12, and I had to file approximately 900 different incident reports. But the human lived. Against all probability, all logic, all reason, he survived. I went to see him in the medical bay once the doctors cleared him for visitors. He was lying in a bed designed for Corthan physiology, which meant it was about twice too big for him, covered in bandages and hooked up to various monitoring devices. His left arm was in a cast. He had a nasty cut across his forehead. But he was smiling. "Hey, traffic control guy," he said when he saw me. "Sorry about your landing bay. I promise that usually my landings are at least 20% better than that one." I just stared at him. My translator implant was working perfectly, but I still could not quite process what I was hearing. "How?" I finally managed to say. "How are you this calm? You nearly died. You did die in several statistical models I ran." He shrugged, which made him wince. Occupational hazard. Comes with the job. You flew a ship that should have been impossible to fly. You executed a landing that every calculation said would kill you. You did all of this while joking. Yep, that also comes with the job. He grinned wider. Plus, I have got a reputation to maintain. The guys in my squadron already call me Lucky Jack. Would have been really embarrassing to die after getting a nickname like that. I pulled up a chair, one designed for beings with my body structure, and sat down. "Lieutenant Reeves, call me Jack. Everyone does. Jack. I have been a traffic controller for 7 cycles. I have guided thousands of ships through thousands of landings. That was, without question, the most terrifying thing I have ever witnessed." "Yeah?" He looked genuinely interested. "How would you rank it compared to other stuff you have seen?" "There is no ranking. There is that landing, and then there is everything else far, far below it." He laughed, then grabbed his ribs. "Ow. Okay, note to self. Do not laugh for a few days. But seriously, thanks for talking me through it. I know I was not exactly making your job easy. You saved your own life with that vertical braking maneuver," I said. "That was not in any manual I have ever read. That is because I made it up about 30 seconds before I did it. Seemed like the thing to try." I felt my scales ripple, which is the Thuxorian equivalent of an exasperated sigh. "You made it up. I mean, I have done similar things in atmosphere, just never in space. Or with half a ship missing. Or on fire. So it was kind of a new experience all around." "You are insane. I prefer the term creatively adaptable." He adjusted his position slightly, trying to get comfortable. So real talk. My ship, is there anything left worth salvaging? Or should I just start writing the eulogy now? The Nighthawk is scrap metal. I am sorry. Ah, man. I really love that ship. He was quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe, finally, the reality of what had happened was sinking in. Then he perked up. Oh well, guess I will requisition a new one. Maybe one with a better paint job. The old one was kind of ugly anyway. This was too much. Do humans just not process trauma the same way other species do? Is there something wrong with your brain chemistry? Probably. But you know what they say. If you cannot laugh at nearly dying in a ball of fire, what can you laugh at? Literally anything else. Disagree. This is way funnier. A medical officer, a Yenthori with 6 legs and a perpetually worried expression, scuttled over. Mr. Krell, I must insist you allow the patient to rest. He has sustained multiple contusions, a fractured radius, a mild concussion, and what we believe might be internal bruising, although human anatomy is not my specialty. Sure, I will rest, Jack said. But first, can I ask you something, Doc? What is it? When can I get back to flying? The medical officer's antennae drooped in what I recognized as profound disbelief. You cannot be serious. You need at least 6 weeks of recovery time. Possibly longer. Yeah, but like if I promised to take it easy and not do any barrel rolls or combat maneuvers, could I maybe fly in, say 3 weeks? Absolutely not. 2 weeks? No. 1 week and I will let you run all the medical tests you want? The medical officer looked at me, clearly hoping I would intervene. I just held up my claws in surrender. This was between them. You humans, the medical officer muttered, adjusting one of the monitoring devices. You are all completely suicidal and you think it is normal. Hey now, that is not fair, Jack protested. We are not suicidal, we are optimistic. There is a difference. What is the difference? Suicidal people think they are going to die. Optimistic people think they are going to survive and then immediately do the same thing again. I left the medical bay shortly after that, my head hurting in ways I did not think were physically possible. I returned to my station, where Gorvan was already compiling the incident data. The Coalition Command is asking for a full report, he said. They want to know how their pilot survived when our computers said he should not have. Tell them I have no idea, I said honestly. Tell them it defied every logical analysis. Tell them that their Lieutenant Reeves appears to be made of equal parts skill, insanity, and whatever humans use instead of survival instincts. That is not going to be a very helpful report. It is the only accurate one I can give. The story should have ended there. Jack should have recovered, gotten a new ship and left the station. I should have gone back to my boring, predictable routine. That would have been the sensible conclusion. 3 days later, I was reviewing supply manifests when the emergency channel crackled to life again. I will be honest, my first thought was, please let this be literally anyone except that human. No such luck. Grethik platform, this is Lieutenant Reeves requesting immediate launch clearance for Bay 7. I dropped my datapad. You have got to be kidding me. You are still in the medical wing. Technically, I am in a borrowed maintenance shuttle that I may or may not have requisitioned without filling out the proper paperwork. Details are fuzzy. Korvac swiveled all 4 of his eye stalks toward me. Is he seriously trying to steal a shuttle while injured? I grabbed the comm control. Lieutenant Reeves, you are not cleared for flight. You are not cleared to even be out of bed. Return to the medical bay immediately, or I will have security escort you there. Okay, see, I would love to do that, but we have got a situation developing, and I am the only pilot currently on this station who is conscious and has experience with combat rescue operations. What situation? I pulled up the sector scan and my blood went cold. There, on the edge of our sensor range, was a debris field. A fresh one. What happened? Civilian transport got jumped by raiders about 40 minutes ago. They managed to get off a distress call before their comms went dark. 5 ships, maybe 6. The transport is called the Gentle Breeze. Registry out of the Pelnar colonies. Manifest says they have got 217 passengers. Families, mostly. My claws froze over the console. Raiders. We got them, sometimes out here. Pirates who preyed on undefended transports. But our patrol ships were 3 hours away, minimum. By the time they arrived, everyone on that transport would be dead or worse. The Coalition Defense Fleet is mobilizing, I said, checking the tactical display. ETA is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, that is not going to cut it. Those raiders will have stripped the transport and spaced everyone aboard in half that time. I am going now. You cannot. You are one ship. You are injured, and you do not even have weapons on that shuttle. 3 things, Jack said, and I could hear him working controls in the background. First, I have got a couple of surprises loaded on this shuttle that maintenance left lying around. Second, I have been injured way worse than this and still flown. And third, I am not asking for permission. I am informing you as a courtesy because you seem like a good person and I did not want you to think I just stole your shuttle without saying goodbye. That is exactly what you are doing. Semantics. Look, you can either open Bay 7 or I can blow the bay doors. Either way, I am leaving. But one of those options is way more expensive to fix. Gorvan looked at me with an expression that clearly said, "This is your problem now." He is bluffing, right? He would not actually blow the bay doors. I thought about the human who had flown half a ship through impossible odds while cracking jokes. He absolutely would. He had a decision that was probably going to get me fired, demoted, or possibly both. Bay 7 doors opening. "But Lieutenant, I am coming with you." There was a pause. What? No way, this is a military operation. This is a suicide mission. And if you think I am going to let you fly into a raider ambush alone while suffering from a concussion and a broken arm, you are even crazier than I thought. I was already moving, grabbing my emergency kit from under my console. Besides, someone needs to handle communications and sensors while you fly, and your co-pilot already abandoned you once. He did not abandon me, he followed proper emergency protocols when our ship was actively exploding. Bay 7. 2 minutes. If you leave without me, I will report this theft to every authority from here to the Galactic Core. I heard him sigh over the comm. Fine. But if we die, I am blaming you for being stubborn. If we die, I will be too dead to care. You taught me that. Gorvan grabbed my arm with 2 of his tentacles. Krell, this is insane. You are a traffic controller, not a soldier. I know, but I also know that if I let him go alone and he dies trying to save those people, I will never forgive myself. I pulled free gently. Tell my supervisor I took an extended lunch break. That is the worst lie I have ever heard. Yeah. Well, I learned from the best. I reached Bay 7 in 90 seconds, which might be a personal record. The maintenance shuttle was there. A ugly, blocky thing designed for hauling cargo and doing repairs, not combat. Jack had the rear hatch open and was loading what looked like industrial welding torches and plasma cutters. "Those are your weapons?" I said, climbing aboard. "Improvised weapons. There is a difference." He grinned at me, his face still bruised and his arm still in that cast. "Besides, I once took out a hostile drone with a fire extinguisher. You work with what you have got. That does not inspire confidence." "Good. Confidence gets you killed. Healthy paranoia keeps you alive." He sealed the hatch and moved to the pilot seat. "Strap in. This is going to be rough." I took the co-pilot position, which was not designed for Thuxorian anatomy, and managed to wedge myself in. The safety harness was a nightmare to figure out, but I got it eventually. I haven't been in combat before. Really? Never? My species is not known for military service. We preferred administrative roles. Huh. Well, first time for everything. He ran through the pre-flight checks faster than I could follow. Okay. Here is the plan. We get in close, assess the situation, and try to either scare off the raiders or disable their ships long enough for the cavalry to arrive. And if we cannot scare them off, then we get creative. I am very good at creative. The shuttle lifted off, and Jack piloted us out of the bay with surprising gentleness. The moment we cleared the station, however, he opened the throttle all the way. The acceleration pushed me back into my seat hard enough to make my vision blur. "Speed is life in combat," he said, almost to himself. "Stay fast, stay unpredictable, stay alive." I pulled up the sensor data on my console. The debris field was getting closer. I could make out the transport now. Dead in space, venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Around it, like scavengers around a corpse, were the raider ships. 6 of them, just like Jack had estimated. They are already boarding, I said. My voice tight. Life signs on the transport are erratic. They must be hurting the passengers. Then we do not have much time. His hands moved over the controls, and the shuttle began a series of evasive maneuvers that made my stomach try to exit through my throat. How are those raiders armed? I scanned them. Energy weapons, primarily. Looks like laser cannons and pulse guns. Nothing too heavy, but more than enough to tear us apart. Great, just great. But he was smiling. Actually smiling. All right, here is what we are going to do. You are going to target the furthest raider ship and hit it with every sensor ping, every comm broadcast, every scanning beam we have got. Make them think we are a military frigate running advanced targeting protocols, but we are not a military frigate. They do not know that. Not yet anyway. By the time they figure it out, we will have already caused enough chaos to buy some time. I did as he instructed, flooding the raider ship with targeting locks and scanning beams. The effect was immediate. The raider ships broke formation, 3 of them turning to face us. They are launching fighters, I reported. 4, no, 5 small attack craft inbound. Perfect. That means fewer raiders on that transport. He rolled the shuttle, dodging a burst of laser fire that lit up space where we had been a second before. Hang on, this is where things get interesting. Interesting. The human word for terrifying. Jack threw the shuttle into a dive, then a climb, then a spiral that should have been impossible for a craft this size. The raider fighters tried to follow, but they were designed for straight-line speed. Not this kind of maneuvering. One of them overshot us completely and had to loop back around. Krell, I need you to do something for me. See that plasma cutter in the aft compartment? Yes? I need you to rig it to the rear hatch controls. When I give you the signal, blow the hatch and trigger the cutter at maximum output. I stared at him. That will depressurize the entire shuttle. Yep, our suits will hold. Probably. Just set it up. This was insane. This was beyond insane. But I unbuckled, carefully made my way to the aft compartment while Jack continued his impossible piloting and began rigging the plasma cutter exactly as he had described. My claws were shaking. Done, I called out, making my way back to my seat. Excellent. Now comes the fun part. He pushed the throttle forward, aiming directly at the largest concentration of raider fighters. They opened fire, and the shuttle shuddered as impacts hit our shields. Almost there, now. I triggered the sequence. The rear hatch blew open with explosive force, and the plasma cutter ignited, sending a massive burst of superheated energy backward. It caught the nearest raider fighter dead center, melting through its hull like it was made of wax. The fighter exploded in a brilliant flash. Yes, Jack shouted. Told you it would work. The depressurization was pulling everything toward the open hatch, including me, but my harness held. Barely. Jack sealed the emergency bulkhead, cutting off the aft compartment and stopping the air loss. But we had lost our improvised weapon. 1 down, 4 to go, I managed to say, my voice shaking. Actually, check your sensors. I did. The remaining raider fighters were breaking off, retreating back to their mother ships, and the mother ships themselves were powering up their drives. They are running, I said, disbelief in my voice. They are actually running. Of course they are. We just took out one of their fighters with a maintenance shuttle and a glorified welding torch. They think we are either crazy or we have got serious backup coming. Either way, they do not want to stick around to find out. The raider ships jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the transport behind. I pulled up the life sign scans. Still there. Weak, but there. The passengers are alive, I said. And I felt something in my chest unclench. We did it? We actually did it? We are not done yet. Jack maneuvered us toward the transport. We need to stabilize their atmosphere and get medical supplies over there. Can you patch into their systems? I worked the console, establishing a connection with the Gentle Breezes emergency network. What I saw made my scales pale. Their life support is failing. They have maybe 20 minutes of air left, and that is being optimistic. Then we work fast. He brought the shuttle alongside the transport, matching velocity with a precision that should not have been possible. Get on the comm. Tell them help is here. I opened a channel. Gentle Breeze? This is Rescue Shuttle November 7. We have driven off your attackers. Can you receive? There was a long pause, filled with static and what sounded like crying in the background. Then a voice, female, shaking with fear and exhaustion. This is Captain Verona of the Gentle Breeze. Who are you? We are friends, I said, and surprised myself with how calm I sounded. How many injured? 37. The raiders. They shot anyone who resisted. We need medical evacuation. I looked at Jack, who was already pulling up schematics of the transport on his display. Our shuttle can take maybe 50 people maximum, and that is cramming them in like cargo. We will need multiple trips, and we do not have time. Then we do not take them off the ship. We fix the ship. He pointed at the schematic. See here? Their primary life support junction is damaged, but the secondary system is intact. If we can reroute power and bypass the damaged sections, we can get them breathable air. That would require going over there in suits, while performing complex repairs on systems I barely understand. Lucky for us, I worked as a maintenance engineer before I became a pilot. I know these transport models inside and out. He was already moving, grabbing tools and a portable power unit. Come on, those people do not have 20 minutes. They have maybe 10. We suited up in record time, attached tether lines, and crossed the gap between the shuttle and the transport using maneuvering jets. The transport's hull was scarred with weapon impacts, and I could see where the raiders had cut through hatches to gain entry. Jack led me through an emergency airlock that he manually cranked open. Inside, the ship was a disaster. Bodies floated in zero gravity. Some injured, some who had not been as lucky. Passengers huddled in corners, their faces masks of terror. It is okay, Jack called out, his voice broadcast through his suit speakers. We are here to help. Just stay calm. We made our way to the engineering section, where the life support systems were housed. The damage was worse than the scans had shown. Entire panels were blown out, wiring exposed and sparking. This is going to be tight, Jack said, pulling out a diagnostic tool. I need you to hold this power relay steady while I bypass the damaged circuits. I did as he instructed, my claws gripping the relay even as small electrical discharges made my hands shake. Jack worked with impossible speed, cutting wires, reconnecting them, muttering to himself in technical jargon I only half understood. Come on, he whispered. Just a little more. Or just need to there? The lights flickered, then came back on. The atmospheric processors hummed to life. Fresh air began circulating. We did it, I said. We actually did it. Never doubted it for a second. He was breathing hard and I noticed he had been holding his broken arm at an awkward angle. Now let's get these people stabilized until the real rescue ships arrive. We spent the next hour and a half working alongside the transport's crew, treating the injured as best we could with our limited supplies, comforting the terrified passengers, and making temporary repairs to keep the ship functional. When the coalition fleet finally arrived, led by a massive frigate with full medical facilities, I had never been so happy to see military vessels in my life. The evacuation was smooth, professional. The passengers were transferred to the frigate, the injured rushed to proper medical care. Captain Verona found us before she left, tears streaming down her face. I do not know how to thank you, she said. You saved all of us. 217 lives. Because you came when no one else could. Jack just shrugged, like he had not just performed a miracle. Just doing what needed to be done, ma'am. Glad we could help. As we flew back to the Galactic platform in our battered, partially destroyed shuttle, I finally allowed myself to relax. My whole body ached. My hands were shaking from adrenaline crash. But we had done it. Jack, I said quietly, thank you for letting me come with you. Are you kidding? You were amazing. That power relay thing. I could not have done that alone. He glanced at me. You know, for someone who said they have never been in combat, you handled yourself pretty well. I was terrified the entire time. Yeah, well, so was I. The trick is doing it anyway. We docked back at the station to find half the command staff waiting for us. Corvan was there, looking both relieved and furious. My supervisor, a stern Corthanian named Velix, was there with a data pad full of what I assumed were disciplinary reports. And there, to my surprise, was the station commander himself, Admiral Trent, a grizzled human with more scars than hair. "Lieutenant Reeves," the Admiral said, his voice like gravel. "I have received a full report of your unauthorized departure, theft of station property and engagement with hostile forces while medically unfit for duty." "Yes, sir," Jack said, standing at attention as best he could with his injuries. "I take full responsibility. Krell was just trying to stop me." "That is not true," I protested. "I chose to go with him." The Admiral held up a hand. "I also received a transmission from Captain Verona of the Gentle Breeze, as well as personal messages from 43 of the passengers you saved." He paused. "The Coalition High Command has authorized a commendation for both of you. Meritorious conduct in the face of overwhelming odds, with complete disregard for personal safety in the service of protecting civilian lives." I blinked all 3 eyelids in rapid succession. "Sir, you are being given medals, Krell." Try to look less surprised. The Admiral turned to Jack. "As for you, Lieutenant, you are also being court-martialed for 13 different violations of military protocol." "That seems fair," Jack said. "However, given the circumstances and the outcome, your sentence is restricted to base for 2 weeks, mandatory completion of all medical treatment, and you are forbidden from flying anything anywhere until a proper medical board clears your—" "Am I understood?" "Crystal clear, sir." "Good. Dismissed." As we walked away from the command center, I turned to Jack. "A commendation and a court-martial. How does that even work?" "That is the military for you. Half the time they want to give you medals, the other half they want to throw you in the brig. Sometimes both at once." He grinned. "So, how does it feel to be a hero?" "Exhausting, terrifying, and I never want to do it again." "Yeah, that is pretty much how it goes." We reached the medical bay, where the same Yunthori doctor was waiting with what I can only describe as a vengeful expression. "Well, this has been fun. We should do it again sometime." "Absolutely not." "Fair enough." They took Jack away for examination, leaving me standing in the corridor, still processing everything that had happened. I had violated about 50 different regulations. I had risked my life on a plan that should not have worked. I had helped save 217 people. Gorvan found me there, still standing, still thinking. "You know," he said gently, "when you started this shift, you were just a traffic controller who wanted a quiet day. I remember. That feels like a lifetime ago. How do you feel now?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Different, like something changed. I spent 7 cycles watching ships come and go, always from a safe distance. But today, I was out there. I mattered. You always mattered, Krell. Maybe. But today I felt it. 3 weeks later, Jack was finally cleared for flight duty. They gave him a new ship, a beautiful fighter he immediately named Nighthawk. Because humans are apparently terrible at creative naming. I was there for his departure. Back at my usual post in traffic control. "Galactic platform. This is Lieutenant Reeves requesting departure clearance," he said over the comm. "Clearance granted, Lieutenant," I responded. "Bay 4 is open. Try not to destroy this one. No promises." "Hey, Krell." "Yes, thanks for everything. You are one of the good ones." "So are you, Jack." "So are you." I watched on the sensors as the Nighthawk 2 launched, accelerated and jumped to faster than light speed, and I smiled. Because I knew, somehow I just knew, that this would not be the last time our paths crossed. Humans, they fly ships that should not fly. They survive things that should kill them. They run toward danger when everyone else runs away. And somehow, impossibly, they make you want to be braver than you ever thought you could be. 3 days after that, I applied for transfer to the Coalition's Joint Operations Command. If I was going to work with humans, I figured I might as well make it official. Besides, someone had to keep Jack from getting himself killed. It was going to be a full-time job.